My name is Christine P., and I'm 29 years old, and my family used to mock me for not being as successful as my brother. You will always be in second place, my dad said one time, laughing like it was the funniest thing in the world. I remember just standing there, forcing a smile, saying okay, because I'd learned early that pushing back only made it worse. Growing up, I got used to the idea that I would always come second. Second in grades, second in sports, second in accomplishments, and definitely second in my parents' eyes. My older brother Lester was the golden child, the successful one, the talented one, the one they bragged about to friends and family like he was a trophy they'd personally earned. It wasn't just favoritism, it was something deeper than that, like obsession. Lester could do no wrong. If I got a B on a test, I didn't work hard enough. If he got a B, the teacher must have graded unfairly. If I got a decent job, my father asked why I didn't aim higher. If Lester got a six-figure salary, they practically threw a party. It was exhausting, but after years of it, I learned how to survive it. I learned how to swallow comments that burned. I learned how to be fine when my mother praised Lester's smallest choices like they were acts of genius, while treating my achievements like they were background noise. I learned how to sit at dinner while they talked about Lester's future like it was guaranteed, while looking at mine like it was a question mark they didn't want to solve. Then everything changed. Lester went bankrupt. He lost everything: his fancy apartment, his car, his savings, the lifestyle he used to flash like proof that he was better than everyone else. The same brother they put on a pedestal suddenly had nowhere to go, and the worst part was realizing who would be expected to catch him when he fell. It was me. I took him in, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't leave him homeless, no matter how much resentment I carried for the past. For 3 months, he lived in my apartment, sleeping on my couch, eating my food, taking up space like he still owned the world. He didn't work. He didn't contribute. He didn't even try. He just sat there claiming he was depressed and needed time to figure things out. Meanwhile, I paid for everything: rent, bills, groceries, and even loaned him $19,000 for a used car because he said people take you more seriously when you have a car. And what did my parents know about any of it? Nothing. Lester made sure they still saw him as their perfect son. He barely called them, always saying he was busy. He made sure they thought he was still doing well, still successful, still the same Lester they adored. And me. I was still the disappointment, the one who never quite measured up, even while I was the one keeping their golden child from sleeping on the street. I watched him rehearse lies like he was practicing for a performance. I watched him put on confidence like armor, even in my living room, even while he was living off me. Sometimes I'd wake up early and see him staring at his phone, jaw tight, scrolling like he was trying to find a version of his life where he hadn't failed. Then an hour later, he'd be smirking again, acting like he was just resetting, like this was all temporary, and I was lucky to be included in his comeback story. Thanksgiving was coming, and I already knew how it would go. We'd all be at my parents' house. Turkey, mashed potatoes, the works. Lester would show up late and make an entrance like he always did. My mom would ask about his work. My dad would ask about investments. Someone would clap him on the back and call him a big mover, and he would play along, lying through his teeth while I sat there smiling like I wasn't paying for his entire life. I told myself I could get through one dinner. I told myself I could keep the peace one more time. But deep down, something in me was changing, something quiet and dangerous, like a match being struck in a room full of gas. Because this time, it wasn't just old memories and petty insults. This time, I was watching my family worship a fraud while treating me like I was still the one who didn't measure up, and I could feel the exact moment my patience started to run out. Thanksgiving came exactly the way I expected it to, heavy and loud and already exhausting before I even walked through the door. My parents' house smelled like roasted turkey and butter, the table set too perfectly, like presentation could cover up years of imbalance. Relatives trickled in with forced smiles and half-interested questions, and I took my usual spot, already bracing myself for what was coming. Lester arrived late, of course. He always did. The door swung open like it was part of a performance, and there he was, jacket draped just right, keys in hand, confidence turned all the way up. He made sure to park his car directly in front of the house, where everyone could see it, even though every time I looked at it, my stomach tightened, because I knew the truth. I paid for that car, every dollar of it. As soon as we sat down, the attention shifted to him like it always did. My mom asked about work. My dad leaned forward and asked about investments. My uncle patted him on the shoulder and said he heard Lester was still making big moves. Lester smiled and nodded, lying with ease. Things are going great, he said. Had to downsize a bit for a new investment, but that's all part of the plan. Short-term sacrifices for long-term success. He said it so smoothly you'd think he believed it himself. I stared at my plate, gripping my fork so tightly my knuckles turned white. He wasn't just lying, he was enjoying it. Then, right on cue, my dad turned toward me. So Christine, still at the same job? I nodded. Yeah. He chuckled and shook his head. Well, I guess someone has to come in second. The table erupted in laughter. My mom, my uncle, even my cousin, and Lester. He laughed the hardest. Something inside me snapped, but it wasn't loud. It was calm, controlled. I set my fork down carefully and stood up. Okay, I said. The laughter died instantly. You're right. Then I looked straight at my parents. Lester's moving in with you tomorrow. Silence slammed into the room. My mom blinked like she misheard me. What are you talking about? I crossed my arms. I mean, since Lester is so successful, he obviously doesn't need my couch anymore. He can live with you now. Every head turned toward Lester. His face went pale. He let out a weak laugh. Christine, stop joking around. I wasn't joking. Not even a little. I took a step closer. I think you should know that your number one son has been living with me for the past 4 months. Eating my food, sleeping on my couch, driving a car I paid for. Because he's broke. He has nothing. My mom covered her mouth. My dad's expression hardened. Lester tried to speak, but the words didn't come fast enough. That's not true, he scoffed. You're twisting things. Am I asked. Do you have your own place? He stayed silent. Do you pay rent? More silence. Do you even buy your own toilet paper? His jaw clenched, but he still didn't answer. I turned back to my parents. He's been lying to you for months. He wanted you to keep thinking he was still on top, and I let him stay with me, even though I couldn't stand it. Even though I paid for everything while he sat around doing nothing. No one spoke. You could hear a pin drop. Then my dad finally looked at Lester. Is that true? Lester swallowed. Dad, it's complicated. My mom shook her head. You said things were going well. He rubbed his face. I just needed time. I wanted to tell you. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Yeah. When my bank account hit 0, I grabbed my jacket. You guys enjoy figuring it out. I'm done. I walked out without looking back, thinking it was finally over, not knowing that later that night, Lester would show up at my door, drunk, furious, and ready to tear everything down. I didn't go straight home after I left my parents' house. I drove around for a while, letting the cold air from the cracked window cut through the heat in my chest. I thought exposing him would feel lighter, like relief. Instead, it felt heavy, like I'd finally stopped holding something up and realized how much weight it had been carrying. When I eventually pulled into my parking lot, the lights were already on inside my apartment. My stomach dropped. Lester still had a key. I hadn't thought to take it back, not because I trusted him, but because a part of me still hadn't accepted how far he would go. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. He was there, standing in the middle of the living room, shoulders tight, eyes glassy, the smell of alcohol hanging off him. What the hell is wrong with you? He snapped, slamming the door shut behind me. I set my keys down slowly. I'm not in the mood, Lester. He laughed, sharp and ugly. Not in the mood. Do you have any idea what you did back there? I looked at him then. Fix what you did. He scoffed. You humiliated me in front of everyone. You think I was just going to let that happen? I stared at him. Fix. He nodded. I told them you were jealous, that you couldn't stand the fact that I was more successful than you, so you made up some story to make yourself feel better. My jaw clenched. You lied again. I had no choice, he shot back. Mom was freaking out. Dad was pissed. I had to say something. I shook my head slowly. Wow, you really are unbelievable. He stepped closer. Everything was fine before you opened your mouth. You had to make it about you. You've always hated that they like me more than you. They didn't like you, I said quietly. They liked the idea of you. And the minute they saw the truth, they turned on you. He laughed bitterly. They didn't turn on me. I fixed it. My phone started ringing on the counter. Mom, I let it ring. It rang again. He smirked. Go on, pick it up. I answered. Her voice was sharp. Why would you lie like that, Christine? I closed my eyes. Lie. Yes. Do you know how humiliating that was? Lester already explained everything. She didn't let me speak. He said you were jealous, that you let your emotions get the best of you. I laughed. Really laughed. You actually believe that? Christine, enough, she snapped. Don't ever do that again. Hanging up felt like a door slamming shut. Lester smiled. That's what I thought. I stood up. Pack your stuff. His smirk faded. What? You're done here. He scoffed like I was bluffing. I grabbed my keys. Oh, and keep the car. That finally got him. Wait, the car. I smiled. I'm selling it. It's in my name. He panicked. You can't do that. It was never yours, I said calmly. I listed it right in front of him. His face twisted, then he grabbed his bag and left. For the first time in months, my apartment felt like mine again. I thought it was over. Then my dad called. We need you to come over. It's about Lester. I knew something was wrong the moment I walked back into my parents' house. The air felt tight, like a room where people had been arguing just long enough to get tired, but not long enough to resolve anything. My mom sat on the couch with her arms crossed, irritation and confusion fighting on her face. My dad stood near the fireplace, rubbing his forehead like he had a headache he couldn't shake. My cousin was there too, sitting quietly off to the side, clearly invited for backup or entertainment. And Lester sat in a chair across from them, slouched but alert, like someone preparing to defend a story he'd already rehearsed. As soon as I stepped inside, my mom turned toward me. Christine, your brother says the real reason you kicked him out is because you're in love with his ex-boyfriend. I stopped cold. For a second, I honestly thought I'd misheard her. Lester straightened up and nodded like it was the most logical explanation in the world. Yeah. You've always had a thing for him. Ever since we started dating. You were jealous, and when we broke up, you saw your chance. That's why you left on Thanksgiving. You just wanted me out of the way. I stared at him, stunned. Are you actually serious right now? My dad exhaled loudly. That's what we're trying to figure out. Lester leaned forward, warming to the lie. Come on, just admit it. You've always wanted what I had. My success, my place in this family, and now you want him too. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It came out sharp and disbelieving. I looked at my parents. You can't seriously be listening to this. My mom frowned. I didn't believe him at first, but then I thought, why else would you humiliate him like that in front of everyone? I took a breath, slow and controlled. Because he's broke. Because he lived off me for months while lying to all of you. Lester scoffed. That's what you want them to think. I turned to my dad. You don't believe that, do you? He crossed his arms. I think it sounds ridiculous, but if it's not true, then why is Lester sitting here unemployed, no money, no car, and no plan? Finally, the question landed where it belonged. I looked at Lester. Tell them where your car is. His jaw tightened. I turned back to my dad. I sold it. His eyes widened. You weren't bluffing. I shook my head and pulled out my phone, opening my banking app and holding it up. $19,000. The car's gone. My mom stared at the screen, then at Lester. So it was true. He said nothing. My dad rubbed his temple. Jesus Christ, Lester. My cousin shook his head. Damn, you really thought that excuse was going to work. Lester shot him a look but stayed quiet. My dad looked at me. What do you think we should do? I shrugged. Not my problem. Lester jumped up. Christine, come on. No, I cut in. You lied again. You tried to turn them against me like you always do. But it didn't work this time. You can clean up your own mess. I turned toward the door. Christine, my dad said. I stopped. He sighed. I know we haven't been fair to you. Maybe if we had been, we wouldn't be here. It wasn't an apology, but it was the closest thing I'd ever get. I nodded once and left. I thought that was it. I thought the worst of it was behind me. I was wrong. 12 days later, it was my mom's birthday, and that night would finish what Thanksgiving started. I wasn't planning on going to my mom's birthday. After everything that happened, distance felt safer, but when she called me herself and asked, really asked, I heard something different in her voice. Not warmth, not guilt, something closer to uncertainty. We want you to come, she said. Everyone's going to be there. Against my better judgment, curiosity won. When I walked in, the house was packed. Relatives, family friends, even neighbors. It looked like every other gathering we'd ever had except for one thing. The attention wasn't on me. It was on Lester, and not in the way he liked. I spotted him near the kitchen, drink in hand, smile stretched thin, eyes darting toward the door like he was calculating escape routes. My dad clapped a hand on his shoulder. "So, Lester, how's work going?" Lester stiffened. Figuring things out. "Oh, yeah," my uncle chimed in. "Any big investments lately?" Lester forced a laugh. "Got some things in the works." Then my grandmother, sweet and quiet, shook her head and said, "He's unemployed." The room froze. Then someone snorted. Then laughter spread like wildfire. My mom took a sip of wine. "Not only is he unemployed," she said, "he's also living with us." The laughter doubled. Someone joked about applications. Someone else about paper routes. I leaned against the wall and watched. For 25 years, Lester had been the untouchable one, and now they were tearing him apart with the same ease they used to tear me down. My uncle asked about the car. My mom sighed dramatically. "Oh, you mean the one Christine bought him, the one that got sold." The laughter turned cruel. Lester looked like he might explode. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The truth was doing the work for me. After that night, Lester disappeared from gatherings. He couldn't stand being seen without the myth. He eventually got a job. McDonald's. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. My parents hated it. They fought constantly. The golden boy had become a burden. And me. For the first time in my life, they asked how I was doing. They invited me without jokes. My dad even called just to talk. Do I forgive them? No. They didn't change. They just lost their favorite. But I've made peace with that. Lester used to look down on me. Now he's the disappointment. And for the first time in my life, I'm completely okay with coming in second.